Brad, it is Giants Dodgers week.
Yes.
Now, I saw the Dodgers box scores over the last 3 games.
Yeah.
LLL. The
Beautiful.
L in LA stood for lost last
Lost
weekend.
again.
Is that good or is that bad? I sort of feel like that's bad because I think they're kind of mad right now. They're like, oh my gosh, the Diamondbacks took 3 out of 4. Now we got to go into San Francisco. I kind of feel like they're angry right now.
They big brothered us last year, man. So they're coming into Oracle this week with memories of last year, and they got their dukes up, and they're ready to pin us down and do the loogie in the face, and wedgie and give some noogies. I mean, they're ready. So yeah, it could be a bad thing, but this early in the season, right? Giants are. What are we? 4-5.
Dodgers are
5-5. So I mean, this is measuring stick week, right? This is measuring stick series. We've got the Dodgers, then we go to Detroit after that, or some weird nonsense, or Detroit comes in. I don't remember exactly, but I'm trying not to look past the Dodgers, but this is absolutely measuring stick. I mean, last year you get into a situation where the Giants and Dodgers could play in August. Giants are stinking it up. Dodgers are playing really well. There's no measuring stick there. You can go in and sweep the Dodgers. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
If you can sweep the Dodgers or take this series this early in the season, you're making a statement. You're putting your best foot forward. You're jumping over them in the standings this early in the season, and that's exactly what you want. So, but yeah, they're pissed, man. They're not happy losing and they lost at home, right, to the Diamondbacks.
I didn't check if it was home or away, but
yeah, I believe it was home.
So I had a buddy on one of my wrestling shows, and he's a Dodger fan, and he wore his Dodgers hat, on the show, and we kind of had fun about that. But he was kind of disappointed, and this is before they lost the other 2 games in the series. Maybe maybe Friday hadn't happened yet, but basically I think they were like 5-3 or something like that, or 5-2, and I was like, yeah, you guys are fine. And he's like, I don't like the way they're playing, and then they went out and lost 3 in a row. So
yeah, well, there you go. I mean, he knows his team.
Yeah, so I think very early in the season, see the difference in this season than previous seasons, and we talked about this in the offseason, is they just don't play each other as much as they have in the past. Right. So you can look at it one of 2 ways. You can say, well, this is an opportunity to take some games from them because you don't have that many, and you don't have as many home games. So you want to take as many, especially at home, from them. Or the other thing is like, how much of this does it really matter in the long run? Because we're going to be playing so many more teams outside of the division, and these guys are, they're going to be one of the best teams in all of baseball, is my guess. Because now this is kind of what's happened in basketball a little bit, where you can beat up on some of the bad teams and have a pretty decent record and lose to the good teams, because sometimes there's more bad teams than there are good teams. You can clean up on those teams, and then when you face the good teams, you can lose it and still have a pretty decent record. And I wonder if we're going to see that. Now, we probably won't have enough data, for another 10 years when the Eno Sarases of the world just, look at that, right? And they're like, oh, the teams, what we may see is the NFL thing, which is like everybody is at 500, right? Because of this unbalanced schedule. Who knows? Maybe it won't be like that, but I'm intrigued because, one, we won't get to see the Dodgers that much this year. And to some Giants fans, that might be a good thing because, like you said, they had our number last year. Year before, we played them really well, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a draw, right? They're not coming to Oracle as many times this year, and that probably sucks for the team when it comes to actual tickets sold. But then again, that also means we won't see as many Dodger fans at the ballpark as we've seen over the last few years.
Which is good. I'm fine with that. But yeah, I mean, this is a 3-game series. They play each other 13 times this year. That's the balanced schedule. You play everybody in the West 13 times. So this is 1/4 of the games that we're going to play against the Dodgers in the entire season. And then we play them again, I think, in a couple of weeks for 3 or 4 more games. And then pretty much half of the time we play the Dodgers, the rest of the season is going to be over. And we don't see them again until like August, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe July, maybe July, but.
And you're right. It is Detroit after this. And then we head to Florida, or we head to Miami to play the Marlins.
Is Detroit coming here? Detroit coming to us?
I think they're going to Detroit.
Okay, which is odd because they were just in Chicago, and they were just in New York, and then they come home, and then they go back out there again. So.
Funky homestand, Royals, Dodgers, and then Tigers, Marlins road trip, and then back for Mets, Cardinals. Like it's like 2 series, go back on the road. 2 series, come back home. 2 series, go back on the road. So there's no long home or road trips in April, and it sort of looks like that all the way through May as well. Like no longer than 2 series is being on the road or at home.
Yeah, and like you said too, going back to what you said about how much do these games really matter in the standings? Because we talk about the NFL, and coaches talk about that all the time. When you play a division game, it's like playing 2 games, because if you beat that team, you've got a tiebreaker all of a sudden. So that's important. But baseball, you don't have that. There's no tiebreaker when it comes to head to head. So on paper, it doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, the Giants lose 2 out of 3. They're, still close to the Dodgers, still not far off from the top. But it means a lot when you talk about momentum, when you talk about mentality, when you talk about the clubhouse, all of that. If you can take 2 out of 3 or even sweep the Dodgers even this early in the season, when the Dodgers are reeling from that Diamondback series, that means a lot to the players in the Giants clubhouse, and it's going to hurt the Dodgers in their clubhouse a lot more. They're going to start second guessing. They're going to start thinking about, who are we? What type of team we are? Justin Turner's gone.
And the fans. The fans will just be frustrated. And that's what we love.
Exactly. Trey Turner's gone. So they're going to sit there and go, who are we? What are we doing here?
Gavin Lux hurt, right?
Gavin Lux hurt. So the Giants have a chance to really kind of stomp on the Dodgers when they're down. It's going to be a fun series. I'm already nervous about it.
we are playing. It is going to happen in about an hour from now. As we're recording, we'll be done basically by the time the game starts. But so for those listening to this on the podcast, we will not have the result of Game 1. But I will be. I'll probably be back doing a BSPN news. Probably I'm gonna guess Thursday morning. So after the series is over, I'll probably do a BSPN news and kind of recap the series, and then Brian will be back on Thursday night, Friday morning. He's back from Spain. He said that he doesn't have any jet lag because on the flight back from Spain, he decided to stay up the entire time and didn't go to sleep. So when he got home late last night, then he just crashed like normal, and now he's feeling fine. So
wow. All right. Well, hey, good for him. I go to Hawaii and I come back and I got jet lag for like 3 weeks, man. So I don't know how he did it. Well, his youth. He's got youth. He's a young kid. So
yeah, he and I will be back with the death lineup probably Thursday, which is interesting because now you haven't been an NBA fan, at least following in quite a long time. I know your affinity for the Dominique Wilkins-led Atlanta Hawks from back in the day.
And anything Chris Webber touched, I was a big fan.
So even one of these, you're a big fan of the timeout?
When he touched 2 hands together, I did not like that a whole lot.
So what I was going to say is they have this thing in the NBA where only the top 6 teams are playoff bound. If you finish 7 through 10, you do what is called the play-in. And so you have this mini tournament for the last 2 spots in the playoffs. So all of these games are going to happen Tuesday and Wednesday for the first round. So Brian and I will have some recaps of the first round. We'll set up Kings and Warriors, the first ever Sacramento Kings Golden State Warriors playoff series. And we'll do all that on Thursday. So just wanted to mention that in case people are kind of wondering when we're going to come back with the death lineup. But let's stick on Giants here. What were we going to say?
I'm just curious. So every team basically makes the playoffs, right? 7 through 10. Is there more than 10 teams
Yeah, there's
in
30.
each?
I think there's 30 teams in the NBA.
Okay. So there are teams that have to sit it out. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm fine with that then. I was gonna have a problem if
every team makes it. So shout out to Big Leo hanging out. He's calling Warriors in 6, which hey,
nice.
From your mouth to God's ears, my friend. Okay, so let's get back to some Giants. I wanted to go over kind of the latest of what is going on with the team here. And earlier today, they DFA'd Austin Wins, and they reactivated Joey Bart from the DL. And so this is a crazy scenario for them because a couple of days ago, Roberto Perez, who we thought was going to be the backup catcher and actually opening week was the starter, he makes a throw down to second, and he grabbed his shoulder like I used to do in my semi-pro games when I had thrown too many pitches. Just it just means there's
just
nothing left.
Awful.
And so we were wondering in our Discord, what is the move? Because they had to move quickly. It was either Roberto Perez or Blake Sable. They didn't have another catcher on the roster. And Sable only really counts as like a third of a catcher to me. I know I'm a little tough on him, but he doesn't have very many reps behind the dish, and you can sort of tell, just by the way he handles stuff. And so the thought is what do they do? Do they don't have room on the 60 or on the 40 man unless they put Perez on the 60-day DL, then that frees up a 40-man roster spot. And that's exactly what they did. They had to act quickly, and they brought up Wins. And what did he play? 2 games? What was he on? How many games did he even play?
No, I think he came up. Yeah, so he came up Saturday, and then he was there yesterday, Sunday. Also, I don't even know honestly how many at bats he got. I watched pretty much all the games Saturday, and then Sunday I watched all of it, but I had to hop in the car and listen to the last inning and a half on the road. But yeah, I honestly don't even remember him getting any ABs. I think there was the screw up on was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday.
2 at bats.
Okay.
And here's why maybe he got DFA'd. 2 at bats, 2 strikeouts.
I mean, so it probably figures. I think they probably figure Bart can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's bring him up because he's a better catcher.
Yeah,
a little bit better defense.
So what was this Joey Bart injury then? Was it just we need to kind of fudge the injury report here to try some things out? Because another in the Discord, I was cracking up because so we have fun in the Discord, and and Lumi said Bart's serious back injury is miraculously healed. Question mark emoji face. And I was cracking up because it's exactly what I thought, right? Which is he wasn't really, maybe he was a little like me, maybe there was something going on, but it couldn't have been that big of a deal for them to just reverse 180 all of what their plans were once Perez got hurt. And then that makes me wonder how far along are we how far until Gary Sanchez comes up, and then we got to do this thing again where we create room for him, right?
Yeah, and I think so. Here's the thing: I love Blake Sable. I'm a big Blake Sable fan. I think you can make room for 3 catchers in that situation because Sable is also an outfielder. So yes. and you need that left-handed bat. It's always good to have a left-handed bat. So you've got Sable who can catch, and I think he's doing an admirable job. I don't think. He's obviously not an all-star catcher. He's not a gold glove catcher, but I think he's doing a good enough job back there where he doesn't necessarily lose his job yet. Because remember, he's a Rule 5 guy. So if he loses his job and they've got to send him down, he goes back to Pittsburgh, even though Cincinnati, the whole thing is screwed up. I had to look up the rules today because I was thinking since he was traded, so what happened is Pittsburgh didn't protect him in the Rule 5 draft on the 40-man. Cincinnati selected him in the Rule 5 draft and then traded him to the Giants. that doesn't lose his Rule 5 pick designation. And I thought, well, maybe that strips the designation, but it does not. So under the rules, if the Giants do release him, he goes all the way back to Pittsburgh.
Right.
So he doesn't even go to Cincinnati, even though Cincinnati picked him. He just bounces all the way back to Pittsburgh. And then what does Pittsburgh do at that point? Are they going to DFA him? And then, he'll go through waivers and the Giants will pick him back up. I don't know how all that's going to play out. But I don't know if the Giants really want to risk that at this point. He's a good combination of, he's got some pop, he's got a little bit of power, and he's got speed. He's a pretty quick guy, and he seems to have some really good baseball instincts. I would hate to see the Giants DFA him. I mean, they DFA'd Wins, so they're getting a little thin on catcher as it is. So I think they're going to really try to play out this Sable card as long as they possibly can, at least a couple more months. And if he improves greatly, well, then you've got an outfielder / catcher. And that's a Biggio type like that is that's pretty desired. So I don't know if the Giants are going to want to hand him back, do all this work with him, and then hand him back to Pittsburgh.
Okay. I understand the predicament for sure, but here's my question. Theoretically, don't the Giants already have Blake Sable if you take away the catcher piece of it, and his name is Jock Peterson?
No, I don't think so. Because Blake Sable is much faster. He has a hard time getting on base as it is right now. He's very susceptible to the curveball, as we saw that in a pretty key at bat over the weekend. I think it was Saturday, late in the game. And I think he's got better defense in the outfield, as we saw with the nice bobble catch that he had on opening day. That was pretty awesome. I love that. And Jock Peterson's not even going to get to that baseball.
Yeah, so that is my worry, is that we're doing this dance where in order to get a bat in the game, we're sacrificing the defense. And so we fix that scenario by making Jock the only left-handed hitting DH, but then I feel like we added that problem back by having Sable on this team and on the roster. Now, there's always going to be a spot for a guy if he can hit, right? Like if he was if he's hitting and he's, hitting the long ball, you can find room, you can make room, you can sacrifice defense because the offense is just that much, just makes up for it. But I don't know, like he's gotten a couple hits. He hit that home run in Chicago, which is really cool. And we all cheered and we all, were really excited, but he's hitting 185 with 11 strikeouts. The only person who has more strikeouts than him, well, it's Jock. He and Jock are tied. It's Michael Conforto, but Michael Conforto also has 6 walks and 3 dingers. So that's the difference. And small sample size, I understand this is an opportunity that so early in the season, you can kind of like, mess around with it a little bit. But it just seems like after we had this offseason, we had Giants front office say, look, we understand that defense failed us last year. And the way that we're going to, to get some of these wins back is we need to get a little bit better defensively. And so now this is kind of counter argument to what they said in the offseason that they needed to do. So I'm only really using their own words against them, but it does worry me because this is the song and dance we got in last year. And, I will completely go against myself if he's probably not starting tonight because Urias is pitching, but if he hit and probably not for the whole series, I think the Dodgers are throwing strictly lefties at us. But so, if he comes off the bench and hits a dong off of a right-handed reliever, I'll take back what I said, but it's just this, I feel like we were dealing with this just last year and they are put in this predicament again. And now we're juggling this situation because theoretically, again, the best usage of a Blake Sable is probably at DH, and then you have him, like you said, as emergency catcher, and there is value in that. There's value in an emergency catcher. There's not value in him as a starting catcher, I don't think, because I think the lack of defense overrides everything at that point.
Yeah, I totally hear where you're saying. I hear where you're coming from. I think his outfield defense is better than we think it is, and I'd like to see more of it. The one thing that I think is very valuable about Blake Sable is that the Giants have been able to do more this year, and that is to split catcher duties in the middle of a game. They didn't do that a whole lot last year. You've got a young guy like Sable who's very spry, very athletic. He's a young kid. You can say, hey, come in and catch from the 7th inning on, even though you caught like 6 or 7 innings yesterday. He's like, yeah, I could do it. So I think the Giants kind of have the value in that at this point. If you're trying to juggle Wins and Bart in a couple of games, or Perez and Wins, or Perez and Bart, you're trying to get Bart 6 innings, and then Perez is going to come in and hit, and then now you're going to catch the last 3. I think you're going to have a more difficult time, because then can you start Perez the next day? I don't know as he's getting up there in age. So with a guy like Sable, I think you have that in him where you just have that flexibility. You could throw him back there and say, hey, catch a couple of innings. He's like, yeah, sure. And he's not getting banged up and hurt, and kind of out of it the next day. I watch these guys catch like 3 or 4 innings, and then I bend over to pick up like the cat, and the knees are creaking and everything's hurting. So I'm jealous of that, but I think they can ride this out a little bit more. I don't think he's your typical DH. He needs to get on base more, and that's the bottom line. He really needs to show more patience at the plate, lay off the stuff in the dirt. He needs to get on to show his value, and I think the Giants are going to give him another week or 2, maybe. I don't know, maybe another month to say, what can you do? Because Perez isn't coming back anytime soon. Sanchez needs to get ready. He's only catching in Arizona right now in just some extended spring games. So he hasn't even caught in a minor league game yet. And of course, we know Patrick Bailey is not here yet, and he's not going to be. And maybe he will be later this year, as the Giants organization loves him. Switch hitting catcher. And he calls a great game. He won a Gold Glove last year in the minor leagues. So that could be your catcher of the future, but you need to bridge that until you get there. Yeah. And I think Sable is that type of guy. Roster flexibility. I mean, that's who he is. And that's what Zadie loves. If he can get, if Zadie can get 9 Sables, not only would the fans hate him, but he would love it, because he'd have so much roster flexibility.
So Gary Sanchez in Sacramento. 1 for 4 with 2 RBI on Saturday.
So he has gotten into the game. Okay. I thought he hadn't even gotten into a minor league game yet.
And he struck out twice in that game. And then Sunday 0 for 3 with a strikeout. So very early in his minor league run here before. And we'll see how quickly they act. And, the thing that could make this thing a whole lot better is if Joey Bart just gets 6 or 7 hits in this series, and this makes everything easier, right? Just catcher problem solved. Let's go, Joey. We decided Joe Bart.
It could be Joseph by the end of the series.
Maybe Joseph. I kind of like Joseph.
Yeah, and so the problem though too is, like you said, the mystery back injury. I want to see what the Hacks look like tonight, and he's going to be in the crouch for 7 innings plus, if they don't do the old Sable switch. And that's the only thing that makes me nervous. Yesterday when they did that, and they brought, Sable in and to catch, and all of a sudden you're like, now you're down to no catchers again.
Mm-hmm.
You got the catcher behind the plate. He takes one off the mask and needs to come out. You're down to the emergency catcher, who I don't even think we've heard who the emergency catcher is.
Bring Pablo back.
Well, there you go. No, it was wasn't it Pedro Feliz one year? I think he was the emergency. I think he actually he was the emergency catcher, the 3rd catcher after both of our catchers went down. Pete Happy came in, Pedro Feliz.
Can you imagine? You're the emergency catcher, probably haven't caught a game since high school, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Here comes Camilo Duvall with his 103 mile per
God.
hour exploding sinker.
No thanks. Yeah, that's a tough job, man. But I still want to hear who it is. I'd love to hear who our emergency catcher is. But that's the only problem when you do the splits. Now you can do that if you've got 3 catchers and your third catcher is Sable. Then you can absolutely do that and just say now we have full roster flexibility. So I think that's why they haven't quite given up on Sable yet, and the fact that Gary Sanchez isn't ready, and Ricardo Genoves I don't think is a major league catcher, so I don't know if we're gonna see him up this year. So
yeah, Bailey and Bart, come on, this is what we've been dreaming of is Bailey and Bart. Let's do it.
I'd love to see it.
By the way, isn't whose production company is called Gary Sanchez Productions?
Oh, that was I think Will Ferrell was part of that. Gary Sanchez Productions did My Name is Earl.
Adam, what his former
Adam McKay.
Yeah, I don't think they're partners anymore though, because
they're not. They had an amicable split.
Well, are we sure it was amicable?
That's what I read an article, and it said it was amicable. And then Will Ferrell started his own production company, and I think it was Gloria Sanchez. It was called Gloria Sanchez Productions. So that's what he's doing now.
Because here's what I heard about that split.
Yeah,
he desperately wanted the Lakers show. He wanted to play Dr. Jerry Buss.
Oh, okay.
Adam McKay is doing that Lakers show, and Adam McKay picked the other guy from Step Brothers, John. What's his name?
Oh, you had told me this. Yeah. Okay, that wasn't in the article.
So what is that guy's name?
John C. Reilly.
Yes, John C. Reilly is Dr. Jerry Buss, and the rumor was that Farrell wanted it, and he was so mad that he didn't get it that they just and maybe it wasn't that he didn't get it, but maybe it was like McKay handled the communication poorly or something, and he was frustrated. But that's what I heard as far as why they split and are no longer the dynamic duo.
I mean, the article alluded to the fact that they're friends still and everything else. So I kind of took it as, well, I mean, it was probably some creative differences. You know how that goes. And that's part of the creative differences. So, but yeah, Will Ferrell's on, I think it's like an 1.5 hour interview on Fly on the Wall. And
no way.
Live. Yeah, it's a live interview. So there's a studio audience that asks questions and everything too at the end. Really good. It's excellent. You should check it out.
I started listening to Smart List, so we'll see.
Oh, is that so good? That's a very good one.
Because I subscribed to the Wondery app because there was some true crime podcast that I wanted to listen, or I was listening to, but I was sick of the commercials when I was driving home from Tucson a few weeks ago. And so I was like, these are all Wondery shows. I'm just going to get the app, and it's so affordable per month to not have the commercials. And then Smartless is a Wondery show, so I get to hear Smartless without any commercials too.
Yeah, the other one that I picked up on recently is called Rates and Barrels. And that one, I shouldn't be telling you this though, because it's very fantasy baseball related, and we're in the same league, and I need to beat you. So
we're both kind of like, early in the season, we're both right around the same spot. I think I moved up to like 4th or something today. Yeah,
we're middling teams. We're just kind of hanging out, but it's called Rates and Barrels, and it's an athletic podcast. So it's Eno Saris, Derek Van Riper, Chris Welsh, and Al Melchior, and it's really good. It's very entertaining. So it is my Sunday morning podcast when I'm playing the show.
Oh, there you go.
I will put that on, and then I'll start adding players to my watch list. I'm gonna check this guy out and this guy. So I haven't pulled the trigger on any of the players yet, but they have mentioned a couple that I already had on my watch list. So maybe I'm smarter at fantasy baseball than I think I am.
Oh, wow.
No, probably. I don't think so.
No?
Bro, no. I haven't won in years, man. It's been like 7 years.
It's hard, especially the rotisserie way that we play. It's really hard. Sure. All right, let's get to the player of the week. I know you had 3 options as per usual, and I was actually surprised who won. I won't spoil it. I'll let you talk about it, but it was the person who I picked in my vote. So
Oh, okay. Well, I picked the loser. So there you go. Coming in third of our three picks this week, JD Davis had a pretty big week, and he's starting to swing the bat really well, playing some good defense at third base. He had a 493 WOBA, 389 average, 2 home runs, 6 ribs, and 5 runs scored. That gets you a pretty good WOBA. When you're scoring runs and you're driving in runs, and you're getting on base, WOBA is weighted on base average, and it kind of how you create runs is what WOBA is. And so he had a 493 WOBA, which is fantastic. But he came in third, didn't even get a vote. So that tells you how good of a week it was for the other players. Coming in second, my vote went to Michael Conforto. I thought he was going to walk away with it.
I thought he was going to win too.
Yeah, he had the game winner yesterday, Sunday, the game-winning home run. So Conforto also had a 493 WOBA, 3 home runs, 6 ribs, 7 runs, and for good measure, he threw in a stolen base. But that wasn't enough to push him over the edge, because the winner this week of our player of the week is Anthony DeSclafani, 12 and a third innings. He had 6 hits, 1 earney, no walks in 12 and a third innings, not one single walk, 11 strikeouts, and a 1.61 FIP. Just outstanding this week. And that's who you voted for.
Yes, that's who I picked.
Okay. Yeah, I went with Conforto because I thought, hey, new guy, game-winning home run. I love DeSclafani, but, I wanted to see an offensive guy get it this week. But I don't know. Hopefully we get more performances this season like we did out of DeSclafani with a 2-start week where he's racking up that many strikeouts and not walking anybody. We really need that out of our pitchers. And a guy like Stripling, we got to keep the ball in the yard, man.
We're going to talk about the Stripling thing in a second, because I thought you had some really good feedback as the game, like you kind of predicted what was going to happen before it happened in that terrible, terrible game on Saturday.
It's awful.
But before, the reason why I picked DeSclafani, I think rightfully so, we were tough on him last year. He signs the 3-year deal, and then right off the bat, not good. He has the ankle issue, and then he missed most of the season. So it's just like, what do we got with this guy? And I told you last week that I thought, when it came to Manaea and Stripling, that I thought they were just DeSclafani insurance. And as it turns out, DeSclafani is pitching better than Logan Webb at this point. He's kind of the one who's showing out. And we'll see with Logan Webb tonight. He has, he's up for big games, and he pitched probably his biggest game of his career in that game 1 against the Dodgers in that 5-gamer or 3-gamer? What was that?
It ended up going all 5.
Yeah, 5-gamer.
2-2 and 2-2, and then we got that really, really crappy game 5.
And Webb, Webb is I think he considers himself a big game pitcher, so he's got some stuff to figure out, because the White Sox in his second start, they just kind of sat on everything and just went opposite field, and he wasn't really missing as many bats as he was the start before. But then DeSclafani comes in, and they really needed that game yesterday. He came in, Manaea threw, what did Manaea throw? 6 innings or something like that on Saturday. And then the idea was that it was going to be a Manaea and Stripling game. And I think once Manaea goes 6, you go, okay, we got the lead. Stripling's not really a reliever. Let's just go to the bullpen like a normal bullpen, and let's go Rogers, Duvall, and let's get out of here. And they didn't do that. They brought Stripling in, and you were typing this in our Discord as it was happening, and I was like, oh my God. And so why don't you give your thoughts on that whole scenario as it happened, because you were so frustrated to the point of you were like, Kapler needs to talk to the press about, they need to be able to grill him, because, and as we remember, maybe the biggest criticism of Kapler before he came to the Giants was that he didn't really have a good grasp of the bullpen in Philadelphia. So sometimes this comes back to bite him a little bit with the Giants. It's happened a couple of times over the last few years, but right in the beginning of the season, kind of a mishandle there. And I know that he would probably say, oh, it's a long, this is what he said to Tim Kawakami, right? Long season, 1 game or 2 games, we need more than that. It really doesn't matter. But dude, for your fan base at home, opening home series, homestand, you lose the first game in just kind of ho-hum fashion, and you're winning this game and you just give it away at the end. Like, that was frustrating for, the Giants to come home and have to deal with that, at least the fans. Thankfully, they got yesterday's game, which is why, Desclafani and Conforto were the right guys for the player of the week, because they saved us from getting swept by the Royals. But go ahead, talk about the situation.
Yeah, and I've seen people have been light on Kapler because it's early in the season, and I've seen people be really tough on Kapler. And I think it was just one of those situations where I'm watching the game, and I see, and the frustration is building as I'm seeing Stripling come back out for the 8th, gives up a single, gives up another single. They show the bullpen. You could see pitchers warming up, and I thought, well, okay, here we're gonna go to the bullpen. But Andrew Bailey walks out, and I go, oh, okay. So maybe they're just stalling a little bit. He's going to go back, and then Kapler's going to call time and come out, or Stripling's elbow is kind of weird. Something's going on with his hand. They're going to play it up a little bit, make the pitching. No, he stays into face Salvi Perez. And everybody's kind of beating this to death also, that, you pitch Salvi Perez up. That's what Bumgarner did in the 2014 World Series. Well, I mean, here we are, 9 years later, for crying out loud. So I think Perez, he's not the exact same hitter as he was 9 years ago. But, and then Stripling throws him a fastball. To be fair, as time has passed on, I've lightened up on Stripling a little bit. It's not, I don't think it's Stripling's fault. I really put all this on Kapler, because at this point, the pitching change should have been made.
Sure.
But the pitch to Salvi was a good 2 or 3 inches below the strike zone, and Perez just barrels on it and takes the thing out of the yard. He's a strong man. He's a strong man. So he's gonna take a pitch like that and put it out of the ballpark or put it somewhere in the gap. I wanted to hear from Kapler after the game, so I kept the post-game show on NBC Sports Bay Area way longer than I normally do, and I'm watching interviews with Manaea. And then I'm watching interviews with Sable. Then I'm watching interviews with everybody but Kapler. Finally, I turned the damn thing off, because I was like, if Kapler's not going to talk, I'm just going to read about it later.
Yeah.
Finally, I went searching for it. Finally, I heard a clip of him today, and he said going into it, we had a piggyback situation where we needed to get Stripling work. And in situations like that, we felt he was the right person in that position because of his changeup. We thought he could take Salvador Perez down. Of course, he never said, if I had to do it again, I would do this. You're not going to second guess yourself, especially Kapler.
Yep.
Kapler chooses his words very, very well.
Yes.
But in a situation like that, I, as a fan, want to throw the analytics out the window. First, I want to burn them. Then I want to pee on them. Then I want to throw them out the window, because I'm done with the analytics at that point. I'm saying Stripling doesn't have it. He just gave up 2 singles. He's a starter. He has starter mentality. He doesn't have the, I'm going to shut this thing down, 8th inning, 2 outs mentality. That's not who he is. That's not the type of pitcher he is. He was not brought up that way. He was not brought through the majors that way. You have guys in the bullpen who can do that. Brebbia ends up coming in after the home run. Brebbia, I guarantee you, was probably ready. Yes, he pitched the day before, but he's ready. You brought him in. So that tells me he's ready to go. But also, you got to look at the fact, too, that the next inning, bottom of the 8th, the Giants load the bases with nobody out.
I know.
And they don't get a run home.
How terrible.
In a tie ball game. So there was just so much that went wrong with that game. I'm going to write it off, because, and if we didn't win yesterday, it would be much, much harder to write off. But I'm writing it off as a perfect storm type of game. So many things went wrong. I rubber stamped it with a 2022 as soon as that game was over. I was so sick of it. I didn't want to see 2022 anymore, but I stamped that and I said, this is a 2022 game. I don't want to see it anymore. It's one of those games that got away. You could easily say this is not the Giants of 2023. This is not who they are. But 6, 7, 8, 10 weeks down the line from now, if you can look back at that game and say, yeah, that is the Giants, then we have a problem.
Yeah.
If you can look back 10 weeks from now and say, yeah, that definitely wasn't us, total fluke game that got away, loss that shouldn't have happened, stuff like that has not happened since, we're going to be in fine shape. So I think, it's going to take time to get over that loss. I know it's early in the season, but that one stung, man, because I think it was 2020 where we saw probably 7 or 8 games that got away from us early in the season. And we thought, man, if it wasn't for those games, the Giants would have been in the playoffs in that weird expanded playoff year.
60 game season.
Yeah. And same as last year, too. They had a hard time shutting the door. But this wasn't a hard time shutting the door because of the talent you have. This was a hard time shutting the door because of a managerial decision based on analytics and getting a guy work. It's not spring training anymore.
Yeah.
We're in the season. It is time to make those decisions as if it's, September 30th and you're fighting for that last spot. Every game counts. Every game counts.
His answer made me think a little bit about just the idea that they have so many starting pitchers. And I know that they are seeing the season as they should, as a long journey, as a marathon. It is not a sprint.
Right.
But at the same time, after last season and after 2021, where they were, the best record in all of baseball, you kind of think like, how do you explain to your fans? And this is not something the Giants really ever had to worry about because they always had a draw. Ever since Oracle Park opened, when it was AT&T, they had Barry Bonds, and then they had Tim Lincecum, and then they had Buster Posey. And so all the way up until just last year, they've always had a draw where you could say, that's who I want to go see play baseball because that guy is amazing. And they haven't had that for 2 years in a row. And so I think some of the lack of patience of like this, long journey of a season, I think some of it just boils down to this team doesn't have as much grace as they once did because they don't have that superstar who fans just can't wait to go see at the ballpark. And some of that is, I think you should want to see Brandon Crawford, especially if this is his last season. So you should have some of that there. Maybe Logan Webb does become that. But I think overall, just Giants fans just have a little bit less patience. And some of that could also be, 2014 just paid off so long, and maybe it just ended. Maybe that patience with the benefit of the doubt for Giants fans just kind of ended. You're like, okay, it's been, like you said, 9 years. And I was like, holy crap, 9 years.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just like the limit, right? Maybe Giants fans, we're good for 7 years. And then it's like, nope, not good anymore. We need to get back and win another title because that's what you expect when you're in a market like this and you have the payroll that they do. So it's going to be something that is going to be interesting to follow because I'm also following attendance numbers. I know they had 35,000 yesterday, which is a good number, but it's not the 41 of a sellout number. Right. So that's something that I think we'll also look at just when it comes to how happy is the general fan base with this team.
But that's how you do it too. You do it by not making bad decisions. And look at the Giants. Look at the Giants in 2010, 2012. When you had, a nice shutdown bullpen. You had Affeldt, you had Lopez. I mean, it's just you didn't have and Romo, and you didn't have. There weren't big names, but there were Giants fans favorites. And you can do that by bringing in Brebbia and shutting down a game, and then you go to, at that point, because at that point too, you're looking at, if Brebbia would have come in and gotten the out with Salvador Perez, then you're looking at some lefties coming up. Well, oh, great. Hey, it's Taylor Rogers time. Taylor Rogers comes in for a save. So I'm sitting there watching this game, managing the bullpen in my head and thinking, oh, these are obvious moves. These are great moves. This is a matchup heavy analytic move. This is what we're going to do. We didn't do it, which baffled me, because it was almost like anti-analytic. It was just like we had a plan at the beginning of this game of who was going to pitch. No, you do that in February. You do that in March. You don't do that in April in a game that counts, especially when you lost your home opener the day before. You got the crowd chomping at the bit. You got a 5-2 lead. I was thinking probably around the 7th inning, I go, oh, this is good. We have a great bullpen. I thought going into the season, our bullpen was the strength. We'll put it on a pedestal, put it on display, put it on showcase, show everybody, show your fans. We got a killer bullpen. So if we get a 5-2 lead and we're in the 6th inning, be ready, man, because this is going to be fun. We're just going to come out and strike people out and not give up home runs, maybe a base runner here and there. We're going to play some decent defense, and we're going to get out of here with the W. But I think you got to show the fans that early, not that you have a spreadsheet that says, Stripling's going to get 2 innings in because he needs X amount of pitches today. Do that on his start day.
Yeah.
Do that from the 1st inning on, not in the 8th inning in a tight ball game. So
do that in a game where we're losing 11-1.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you want to get Stripling some innings, well, if you're down 10-2, bring him on in. Let him throw 5. I really don't care. So, yeah.
All right, let's quickly get to our drink, and I'm going to go first because I screwed up.
Uh-oh.
I was telling you how I had bought the, how do you pronounce it again?
Lagavulin.
Lagavulin. I purchased some, and it came, and I had a little bit of it, and I was like, wow, this is heated, man. Like, I'm going to be sweating, if I sip this during a podcast. And maybe it's good that I screwed up because it's actually the hottest day of the spring so far in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
But so I pull out the scotch and I'm pouring it, and I realize that I poured the Glenlivet on accident. And so I was like, okay, do I have time to get the little funnel thing and pour it back in? And I looked at the clock. I was like, no, I don't have enough time. And he sent Brad the link. And so then I was like, you know what? I'll just save it for next week. I'll drink the Glenlivet because the Glenlivet is delicious.
Oh yeah.
But I specifically wanted to drink the Lagavulin tonight for tonight's show. So good stuff in my little whiskey glass here. So very much enjoying it.
Let's do this. Let's plan a show where we both have the Lagavulin. Because I put a tiny ice cube in it myself.
Okay.
Because
I'll have it with that too.
Yeah, I like to open it up a little bit.
Okay.
Because then your first sip is different than your last sip. Sure. I kind of like that. I like that in a drink. So
all right, next week I'll have mine ready.
Next week, let's do it. Okay. So we went on a road trip. We did Disneyland twice, and anytime we're down in that area, there's a gas station in Bishop, California called, and it has I can't remember the name of the gas station, but it has an attached mini mart called Giggle Springs. So I always stop at this place because they always have the best beer. Mammoth Brewing Company is not too far away, and we get some Mammoth Brewing up here, but not all of their stuff. So last time we were down there, I got the Hop Spill Hazy. It is a hazy IPA, very tasty. Working on it here, very fruity with the hops in it. I don't know what kind of hops are in here. Of course, they don't tell you. Usually, Mammoth does a good job of using actually some wild hops, which is kind of cool because there are some wild hops that grow near the Mammoth area. So that's probably what they used in this because it doesn't say the hop variety. But Hop Spill Hazy, Mammoth Brewing Company. It is a W in my book. And I've got 2 of them left after. I bought a 4-pack, so I only have 2 left. So I'm savory.
All right. All right, let's wrap up the show here. And let's go over a little bit of Giants Dodgers before we get off the show. The stats for the Dodgers, 5-5, like I mentioned, 5-5. They were something like a plus 30 or something. They were like the second highest runs scored net versus runs against, only to the Rays. You saw the Rays are just going nuts right now.
They won again tonight, 1-0. They didn't win an 11-0 ball game. They finally won 1-0.
But in these last few games for the Dodgers, they've become I believe they're a plus 15 or a plus 16 or something like that. So that terrific plus minus to start the season has dropped a little bit for them. But still, to me, still one of the best lineups in baseball. Freddie Freeman still hitting the cover off the ball, not as much power as usual, but he's hitting 421 with a 511 on base. JD Martinez, what a fantastic right-handed DH there for that team. He's hitting, he's not hitting with power quite yet, but he's getting hits. He's second on the team in hits. Will Smith has 3 jacks, as does James Outman and Jason Hayward. Who knew Jason Hayward was even on this team?
Yeah, they have revived him. They couldn't revive Joey Gallo, but they could revive Jason Hayward, man.
And Jason Hayward has only had 13 official at-bats and 3 jacks. And also Trace Thompson, Klay Thompson's little brother, had a 3-homer game. So in 15 at-bats, he's got 3 jacks as well. So they're hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Mookie Betts hasn't really sparked up too much yet. Like I said earlier, with Lux out, and like you said, Trey Turner left. So they're playing some different guys. You have Chris Taylor at short. Miguel Rojas is at short. Miguel Vargas is playing second base. So they're having to, move some folks around. I don't know who's in their farm system as far as who could possibly come up, or maybe they have, some sort of trade coming up or something. But they're always going to have guys. They just have a deep farm system. They always have really good players on their team. So I would imagine that they're going to figure that piece of it out sooner than later. But hey, maybe Jose Vizcaino can still play some ball. Maybe they can bring back Delino DeShields, some of those old guys.
No, those guys are in walkers. They're in walkers, man.
But here's the rotation for both teams for the series. So today we mentioned Logan Webb, who's struggled out of the gate. Would be nice for him, and it's a great home start for him. He faces Urias, and then on Tuesday it is Dustin May. So they do get one righty against Alex Wood, always up to no good. And then on Wednesday night you have Kershaw against Cobb. And, the Giants were starting to get to Kershaw a little bit these last couple years. He's not as much of a Giants killer as he was. That might be Urias at this point. But I think pretty decent pitching matchups for them. But I think tonight is the big one. If you can win game 1, that kind of sets the tone, especially behind your best pitcher and then beating their best pitcher. I think that is big time for them. And, I'm like you said, I'm not, I don't know if I'm quite nervous, but I got a little bit of excitement going on, and we're 20 minutes away from first pitch or whatever. So any quick thoughts about this series before we get out of here?
Yeah, just a real fast a prediction, just a tiny prediction. Wednesday night, Elliot Ramos gets his first career home run off of Kershaw.
That'd be nice.
Who
did they send down in order to bring him up?
You know what? I don't remember the move that was made in that situation.
It wasn't Bryce Johnson, because he was motoring yesterday.
No, and Bryce Johnson's playing tonight. Both Ramos and Johnson are playing again tonight. I don't remember the actual move that was made.
I'll see if I can find it before we get out.
Okay, if you can find it. Yeah, It's going to be an interesting series. The Dodgers so far are leading the majors in walk percentage
Oh,
at
it was your
14.9%.
it was your best friend Matt Beatty.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
And
Because he did still have an option. So
yeah, and for Giants fans, they did put Darren Ruff back in the minors, sign him to a minor league contract.
Yes.
So we officially won that trade, big time.
I like that. I like that move because it's I think we won that trade like a week into it, or maybe even like 5 days into it. But I do like that move. I like Ruff being back. He's kind of a fan favorite. Another one, if you ever get a chance to watch interviews with him, it's such a nice guy, just such a cool dude. But yeah, the Dodgers are leading the majors in walk percentage at 14.9%, almost 15%. They really need. That's the thing with the Dodgers. You've got to keep them off the base paths, because if you make a mistake by giving up a single and then a walk, all of a sudden you go into home run hitters. And then you have issues because, again, slugging percentage, they're second in the majors in slugging percentage already at 503. The one thing the Giants are beating them in so far, leading them, should I say, in batting average and BABIP. So the Giants are actually getting more knocks, getting more expected hits, or balls in play that should be hits. But the Dodgers are way up there in on-base percentage and slugging. So, and that's the thing, is the Giants want to be that team. They tried to build that team to be the on-base percentage slugging gods, and they're doing an okay job of that so far. But then again, like we talked about earlier, you get players like Blake Sable, who has one walk so far this season. You got to get on base. You've got to get on base for the hitters, the big boppers, to drive you in. And missing Haniger right now, another potential 30 home run guy, that hurts. Joey Bart needs to step it up. We know that. I mean, I've broken record. I could say that every week. Joey Bart needs to step up. Joe Bart, sorry.
Joe Bart.
It's Joe Bart this week.
Yeah, if he hits a maybe we'll give him the Y back if he, like I said, he gets, he gets 5 hits this series, then maybe he gets the Joey back.
We can call him whatever he wants.
Yeah.
If he hits a couple of home runs, we'll start calling him MVP.
Yeah,
I don't really care.
Yeah,
I'll throw it out there. But yeah, so that's really what this series is all about: limiting the Dodgers slugging, limiting the Dodgers on base percentage. If you can keep those two things down, the Giants are going to compete in this series. I say they probably take 2 out of 3. Tonight's going to be a tough matchup. I think the next 2 nights they can win those ball games, but Urias, that's a really tough matchup. Webb, I mean, it's going to be a pitching duel. But I can see, although the Giants did tap him around in the playoffs that one year, so they can definitely get to him, especially right-handed, heavy hitting lineup. But his slider, his changeup, everything's just so nasty out of that guy's hand. So yeah, it's going to be a fun series. I'm ready.
They only have 3 left-handed hitters in the lineup tonight. Yaz is hitting 3rd, Crawford is hitting 5, and then Johnson is hitting last.
And that's all defensive purposes.
Actually,
right,
Crawford hitting 6th. Actually, not 5th.
Okay, and you got to keep all those guys in the lineup because you need the defense. You can't sacrifice, 3 of your defensive players just get some right-handed bats in there. So yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention based off of your thoughts, your discussion, or what you were talking about when it came to being on base, Lamont Wade Jr., who has hit leadoff for a good decent amount of the season, leads the team in walks. That's pretty good.
There you go.
He's taken that mentality and he's taken it to the plate. He's not hitting the cover off of the ball, but he has a 471 on base. So he has 6 hits and 7 walks and only 7 strikeouts. Yeah, he needs to get, he hit the ball up in the air a little bit more. I think they're going to need some power from him. But nice little start as far as the walks, and Conforto kind of fits into what they do, which is walks, strikeouts, and home runs. Leads the team in strikeouts, also second on the team in walks, and first on the team in home runs, and second on the team in runs batted in. So he kind of fits right in with what they do. Tyro has the most hits on the team so far with 12 and the highest batting average for a regular, with JD Davis second in batting average there. So some early stats that don't really mean a whole lot, but kind of fun to look at early in the season.
It tells you who's hot early in the season, which is good. And Lamont Wade Jr. is playing some decent defense at first base. He did Buckner one ball. That was kind of tough to watch, but I mean, just right through the wickets. It was tough, but
All right, we're done here. Go Giants. We hate the Dodgers. Bait LA or beat LA, depending on how you spell
LA
it.
Indeed.
Yes. So we'll be back next week on Monday, because I'm on my way to Disneyland.
Oh, that's right.
Taken after you on Tuesday. So Monday will be the last time I'm home for the week. But we'll be back, and we'll have our scotch with the one ice cube in it and we'll have a little scotch off for the what are we drinking segment. All right.
And I'll also give you on Monday, I'm going to give the show and you my top 5 Disneyland tips.
Okay. Perfect.
They'll be fast, but I'll give you top 5.
We better write that in our rundown so we don't forget.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. For Brad, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.